Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you very much, distinguished speakers. It's an honor to be here. I come from United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, where we study developmental challenges, financial architecture, and dilemmas of integration. So it's important and very remarkable that we're discussing UN Tax Convention at a time when it's very clear that the international financial architecture in its debt, trade-related and developmental finance aspects is inadequate and in many ways too small to accommodate the needs and systemic challenges of developing countries. So it's a great step also against the quite fragmented and sometimes skewed OECD process of combating base erosion and profit shifting. As my predecessor just argued, UN Tax Convention is aiming to be more inclusive, transparent, and equitable. But at the same time, taxation is only part of developmental challenge, and therefore right to taxation is only one part of a fully systemic quest of right to development. And let me give you two examples from our recent studies that will illustrate how taxation is only one, although very critical and important dimension of the challenge to build capital, institutions, and developmental resources in your host economies, which of course most painfully affect developing countries, least developed countries, and heavily indebted countries. Imagine a case. You're a deputy minister in a developing country. A big multinational corporation offers you $500 million of FDI. You must be very happy. This is inflow of capital into your economy. It should generate jobs, revenue, and of course taxation. But how do you know that this $500 million will generate jobs, relationship with local suppliers, taxation into your public purse? You need to have corporate transparency, accountability, reporting standards, and state capacity to oversee the activities of the multinational being hosted in your economy. We surveyed 2 years ago in our flagship report the presence of top 100 multinational enterprises across the global south. These were non-financial companies. These were companies that produce stuff. In a quarter of them, the subsidiaries located in host developing economies had no apparent economic activity associated with them. There were phantom or empty equity structures. They registered a balance sheet, they registered their presence, but they had no apparent relationship to labor, to taxation, to trade, to financial system. They were there to be registered. It's not a uniquely developing country phenomenon. It does occur in the countries of global south, but there, that such proportion of such subsidiaries is less than 1%. It does show the importance of public disclosure, corporate governance, transparency, media, and state strength in ensuring that corporates are accountable and are embedded in your economic and social systems. In a more recent study, we also looked at food trading, an issue that is very emotional and concerns many developing countries. Food market is controlled by 4 large multinational corporations. Only 2 of them are public. The other are private. They have no obligation to disclose any of their doings, dealings, or reports. They control conservatively 70% of the world food market. Some estimates put it at 90%. During times of crises, during COVID, in the immediate post-COVID years and following geopolitical volatility, the profits of these food corporations, food trading corporations, were on par with the profiteering by energy giants. This is at the time where many developing countries were facing acute food security crises. There was no regulatory mechanism to regulate food traders' profiteering. They're registered as industrial corporations. They're not registered as financial institutions, although most of their profits during volatility years came from financial market operations. They invested in financial assets, they speculated in financial derivatives, and they contributed to price instability. It's one example how post-crisis regulation has been very focused on the bank misbehavior that was exposed in the financial crisis of 2008 and completely missed a vast area of development and economic exchange that matters for developing countries. So we did recommend that in addition to market standards and of course taxation initiatives, non-financial corporations in their complexity and, if you want, mutation, needs to be regulated financially. That would ensure that not only their profits are being monitored, but also their under-taxed profits from activities that are not within their remit go into societies that need it most. This shows the importance of corporate arbitrage. Corporate arbitrage is an umbrella of practices of which tax arbitrage is only part of such tools. Corporate arbitrage includes regulatory arbitrage, reporting arbitrage, liability arbitrage, accounting arbitrage. This is an interplay and maneuvering between jurisdictional niches, partly created by some states, partly forgotten by some states, but it does exist because there is no overarching comprehensive tax and investment treaty globally. It is important that the UN initiatives does close current gaps in trade and financial governance and architecture. At the same time, it's also important to note that taxation is part of a bigger problem of corporate opacity, arbitrage, and fragmentation. And these issues need to be addressed much more squarely, and they should not be lost from the focus of policymakers at any level, but especially at the UN level. Thank you.